The Alaska Native Art Auction Gala is March 21st, 2026 in Anchorage, Alaska. Donate artwork by February 27th, 2026 and be eligible to win $500. Help sustain Indigenous-led media, including National Native News. Donor forms and details are found at knba.org.
Welcome to Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. Flooding related to Typhoon Merbok washed away tons of debris from towns along Alaska's west coast in 2022. Alaska Native communities are still cleaning up that and other trash that accumulates in waterways. Marine debris is not only unsightly, it's a safety hazard and threatens ecosystems. Tribes and Native communities are part of the solution. We'll learn more about marine debris cleanup after the news.
This is National Native News. I'm Antonia Gonzalez. A state task force in Alaska has released recommendations for making psychedelic therapy available if treatments are approved at the federal level. Alaska Public Media's Rachel Cassandra has the story.
The Alaska State Legislature established the task force in 2024 to examine psychedelic therapies, which hold a lot of promise but are still considered experimental. Jenny Armstrong is a former state representative who was on the task force. She says the group tackled questions like how to make therapy accessible and how to offer safe and culturally competent care.
And the whole point of the task force was to bring up these types of questions so we're not scratching our head when this becomes medicalized and scrambling and being reactive, but we're actually being proactive.
The task force did not take a stance on whether psychedelic therapies are good or bad, but recommends Alaska incorporate them as they are legalized nationally. None of the task force's recommendations are binding, but Armstrong says they're meant to guide legislators on the type of laws the state would need to offer access. Armstrong says the task force recommends incorporating a training program for therapists and healthcare providers who want to guide therapy.
Everyone needs to go through this type of training because just being a doctor doesn't make you qualified to facilitate this type of care.
And she says the aim is to make training accessible so a diversity of people can become certified. She says that would ensure people getting treated are a good fit with the person who guides them. Armstrong says Alaskans could benefit a lot from psychedelic therapies if they're legalized. That's because the state has such high rates of post-traumatic stress disorder, substance use disorders, and other mental illnesses. Psychedelic therapies are being studied to treat those disorders, and Armstrong says some of the research is promising.
There are so many folks who, through these trials, went from being suicidal and having treatment-resistant depression, unable to work, unable to function, to being in remission within months.
She says that can change how people and communities can thrive. For National Native News, I'm Rachel Cassandra.
There's a new career pathway for tribal students looking at wildland firefighting jobs. KJZZ's Gabriel Pietrazio has more on the partnership between the Bureau of Indian Education and the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
High schoolers across 6 BIE-run schools are participating, including Northwest High School in Shiprock on the Navajo Nation.
This just happened to occur organically.
Carmelia Becenti is Danette and Chief Academic Officer for the Bureau of Indian Education. She credits President Trump's executive order on expanding educational freedom. They're also pitching the curriculum to colleges.
We are trying to somewhat steer them towards being stewards of our lands. That doesn't always happen.
Gar Fisher's with the BIA Division of Wildland Fire Management. He says they're teaching coursework about leadership, fire suppression, and FEMA readiness. Once done, students put their training to the test during a field day.
They get to put the gear on, how it feels. They get to look like a firefighter.
That equipment is expensive, says Becenti, which is why the BIE is buying it now.
And that way, year after year, as we recruit more students at these schools and across the Bureau, we have this PPE that we can use over and over and over.
For National Native News, I'm Gabriel Pietrorazio.
And I'm Antonia Gonzalez.
National Native News is produced by Koahnic Broadcast Corporation with funding by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Tribal Development Partners, supporting tribal sovereignty through 105L leasing and essential infrastructure development. Tribal Development Partners will attend RES 2026 in booth 303 and are proud to support this show.
Hear that? Tribal college faculty do so much, one can't say it all here. Nothing but respect. Visit mostthoroughdescription.com. The American Indian College Fund supports this program.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.
This is Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. Typhoon Merbok swept buildings, boats, and tons of trash into the sea off the west coast of Alaska in 2022. The city of Chivak is one of many coastal Alaska Native communities tasked with helping to find and recover that debris and other marine detritus clogging coastal waters and shorelines. With federal funding support, the ongoing cleanup is aimed at making the waterways safe for people and the animals that live in the marine ecosystem. In Hawaii, a nonprofit project also works year-round, pulling tons of debris from a chain of coral islands sacred to Native Hawaiians. Coastal tribes and groups are an important piece of the puzzle for solving the growing problem of derelict nets, ropes, boats, and other trash that threaten marine ecosystems. Does trash affect the environment where you live? How does your community work to declutter local waterways? Give us a call. Let us know. 1-800-996-2848. That number is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. Phone lines are now open. Joining us from Chivak, Alaska is Richard Tuluk. He is a project manager for the city of Chivak. He is Chupik from the Kasunamute tribe. Richard, good morning and welcome back to Native America Calling.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Joining us from Sitka, Alaska, we have Jacqueline Foss. She is a commercial fisherman. Jackie, good morning and welcome to you as well.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here.
And joining us from the Big Island in Hawaii is Grant Kaehukai Goin. He is a cultural specialist and lead marine debris tech for the Papahanaumokuakea Marine Debris Project. He is Kanaka Oiwi, Native Hawaiian. Grant, very good morning to you and welcome to our show, Native America Calling.
Yeah, aloha mai kako. It's great to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Aloha to you too. Richard, I want to begin with you. This problem that you're seeing in Alaska and other communities as well near the Pacific Ocean, what does it take to clean up marine debris? And is all of the debris we're talking about in the water, or do you also have to clean up shorelines?
Yes, good morning. May I get a little background of my community for listeners to kind of get an idea of where I'm coming from?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Please do.
Yes, thank you. I'm a Chupik Eskimo. My tribe is from Kasunamute, and we are a coastal community. From the beginning, we were on the banks of the Bering Sea. Our community had to move 3 times due to flooding in that area. The first time we moved maybe 12 miles inland from the Bering Sea, and then the government said that they couldn't build a school there, so they had to move again, maybe 15 miles more inland, and there on a second location, the Catholics built a church there. And then again, the Bureau of Indian Affairs said that they couldn't build a school there. So the third time we had to move. We moved up north 20 miles from the second location, where our community now sits on 30-foot bluffs. And we're located on the northern banks of the Ninglakpak River. So our community is about 1,004 total. And we moved up currently to this location in the mid 1940s. So that's a little bit of my background. And our area is all flat land, and there's no trees. Only we only have like willows and stuff like that. So it's mostly lowland, marshland, and so you can basically kind of get an idea of you can see for miles and things like that. So that's a little bit of my Chivak background.
Yeah, Richard, that's really helpful. Thank you for framing that and giving us some perspective in terms of where your community lies and some of the history there. So going back to the issue of the marine debris, what are you folks seeing there and how are you dealing with it?
Yes, we during the Merbok storm, which hit western Alaska, that was a very intense storm that we experienced. We have annual we usually have fall storms every year, and this one, the Merbok storm, was very intense. So it created a lot of havoc in our area. So with the debris that along the river, we have mostly people that have their boat launch areas, and they have their little sheds there that keep their fuel and stuff like that. But anyway, a lot of debris that came into our community was from there's usually driftwood that comes out of the Yukon, and then they every year during springtime, that's how those driftwoods become a hazard to our area. When that Merbok storm hit us, it brought a lot of wood debris, driftwood debris. And then in the local area, and there we have fish camps about further down from where we usually have our fish camps in summertime, and we usually have cabins and our sheds there, our fish racks and everything. All of those in all of the area, people that have their fish camps, all of those structures were washed up towards our area. A lot of debris from those areas and a lot of debris of wood drift. So that posed a lot of hazard to our area. And then within our river system, like I said, those sheds that had fuel and everything like that, we had some fuel seen that was in our river. So Coast Guard was able to contract a contractor to clean it up and some of the debris on the land. But they had to leave. There was another disaster in the lower 48. They left for that, and we ended up with the tax not being done. So we had an opportunity. The city of Chivak had an opportunity to apply for a grant for the Merbok disaster grant opportunities, and we applied one through the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and their NOFA was up to $200,000, and we applied for that. We got that grant. We were able to get that grant, but the grantees suggested that all that work that we need to be doing, that $200,000 was not going to cover it that much, so they recommended that we apply with NOAA, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, with the NFWF grant, which we got for a little over $600,000. Well, with those two grants that we got, we were able to continue cleaning up and removing hazards.
Okay. Richard, two grants working in partnership with the Coast Guard. You talked earlier about driftwood coming down from the Yukon and also fish camp structures and other types of equipment. So tell us more about the process. Now you've got decent funding, it sounds like. How does this all work? How do you actually go about putting all these resources together to remove some of this debris?
We were able to get notices about funding opportunities, and organizations like UAF, ANTH, Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium. They usually give out those opportunities for grants. That's how we applied for them. The debris, the driftwood is posed a great hazard to our travelers, especially in the wintertime. We travel by snowmobiles or ATVs during the wintertime, and then boats by summertime. There's no major highway within our area, just local roads between villages and things like that. So anyway, the grant opportunities we got we were very fortunate to get awarded for those resources that we needed to address the hazards that were posing to our community, including our environment. A lot of the debris locally was the ones that were lost were like 18 to 24 foot skiffs, aluminum skiffs that had outboard motors in them. We had quite a few that were sunk during that time, and that was kind of devastating. That was devastating for boat owners that lost their skiffs.
Okay. Richard, we're going to take a short break. We'll come back and we'll continue our conversation about what it takes to clean up trash and debris in ocean waters off the coast of Alaska and also in Hawaii. So listeners, stay with us. And if you'd like to join the conversation, just give us a call at 1-800-996-2848. Methamphetamine addiction has run rampant for years in Lodge Grass, Montana on the Crow Reservation. But a community-based nonprofit is tackling the problem head-on. The Mountain Shadow Association is building a center for families struggling with addiction by offering a mix of modern therapies and traditional practices. We'll look at promising tribal addiction treatment on the next Native America Calling.
Support from Davis Keelan Law Firm, a New Mexico firm standing with Native families suffering catastrophic loss. When tragedy strikes Indian country, we fight to restore stability, dignity, and justice. Bringing a voice to Native families and communities for 20 years. More information, daviskeelan.com.
Thank you for tuning in today to Native America Calling. We're talking about marine debris and its impact on coastal environments. How does your community work to remove marine debris like abandoned fishing gear, boats, and trash on tribal lands and waterways? You can give us a call, 1-800-996-2848. 1-800-996-2848. Our next guest, Jackie Foss, joins us now from Sitka, Alaska. And Jackie, you and your husband, you own and operate a small commercial salmon trawler. So you're out on the water a lot. You see firsthand how this marine debris impacts fish and animals. Tell us about this.
Yeah, hi, thanks. So we are trawlers, and so we are a hook and line salmon fishery. So one fish at a time. It is a really purposefully slow fishery because we're focused on quality. And we spend our summers the entirety of Southeast Alaska, and so that's about the length of the Florida coastline, like the Gulf side. It's a big area, and there's thousands and thousands of miles of shoreline and these many, many islands. We're an archipelago. So we see debris on the beaches. It shows up as lots of colors, and we don't get on shore very often. So we didn't really have a great idea of how much was there until we actually started going on shore this last summer. We know that as fishermen, we are deeply reliant on healthy fish stocks, and healthy fish stocks require healthy habitat. So it's part of our values and the way a lot of people around me operate, that in order to have fishermen, you need fish. In order to have healthy fish, you need healthy habitat. So maintaining and stewarding the environment that we use to make our living is a pretty natural part of the work for us. And so it was really amazing to go on shore and see chunks of line, bits of net, but also just the volume of plastic bottles. I was blown away. No matter how small the beach is, how small the little storm surge area, there was always some piece of plastic trash tucked up in like a grass tussock behind a log. So it felt really good to get rid of that, but also my heart sank thinking how much of it is out there. And there's been a lot of discussion in media and news and people looking at fish stomachs and fish flesh about microplastics. So it was really important to me to reduce, to take the stuff out of the environment before it became microplastics, when it was still macroplastic. But it was astounding. It was astounding.
It really sounds like it, Jackie. And then a shoreline the length of Florida. I mean, just to put that in perspective for some of us folks down here in the lower 48, I mean, this is just a huge amount of water that you folks cover. And of course, as you describe it, you're going for quality. So it's one fish at a time. This is a small operation, but obviously you get really good fish, and it's really dependent, your bottom line, on just having really, really good quality salmon. So tell me more about how this impacts, the debris impacts just your overall haul and your business's bottom line.
So most of our fish that we catch are highly migratory. We focus on Chinook. So Chinook are highly migratory, or king salmon. So we catch fish off the coast of Alaska that are bound for not only Alaska waters, but Canadian and Washington waters. So the health of all of those systems come back to us. Like, we're the first people who, have an opportunity to catch these fish. And I'm not going to go into fish politics, but there's a very complex, very rigorous structure around how much fish get to be harvested by Alaska-based commercial fishermen, by BC and Washington commercial fishermen, and there's a very significant tribal component too. So I don't want to go into fish politics too much, but what we all agree on is the health and intactness of all of the habitats necessary for the salmon's life cycle. So that's not just spawning grounds, that's where they come and feed. And so the little tiny baby fish that are feeder fish for these larger fish confuse microplastics for food, and their little bodies can't process that. And so it ends up killing these forage fish, these feeder fish, which affects birds, which affects larger fish. So what we've seen is just some losses in some of these forage fish that everything is built on the foundation of everyone needs something to eat, right? And so like the baby fish need little zooplankton or tiny little plant materials. And if they're consuming plastics instead of that, they're not able to survive and feed the fish that I depend on. And so whatever I can do to not only remove that from the environment, but make personal choices and advocate as much as I can as an individual person for just the reduction in plastics in our environment really is going to affect the structural problem of marine debris, which is there's just too much stuff ending up in the oceans.
Now, Jackie, you're also part of a network of other
Yes.
people who are doing this type of marine debris cleanup. Tell us more about this group and what's the approach?
Sure. So I do want to start off by thanking Richard, who's also on this call, who shared my name with this show. So thank you, Richard, for putting my name forward. And he and his organization are part of the Alaska Center for Marine Debris. It's a collection of people supported by the Marine Debris Foundation and the Alaska Sea Grant that monthly get people together to talk about approaches and share how we're making marine debris cleanups happen, how we're removing the debris from our communities, because Alaska is big and disconnected. So one of the problems with marine debris is once you clean it up, well, now what? If you're a village on a river that is connected by a small airstrip or, barge service for my community, what do you do with the marine debris once you have it? So we, in connection with the Alaska Center for Marine Debris, there's NOAA, and then there's Ocean Conservancy that are trying to bring a solution to, we collected this marine debris, now what? So do we recycle it? How do we move it from these small communities outward? And so one of the cool things that as a person who fishes is we are a network of fishermen that move around throughout the coastline of Florida, right? We're moving. So we are exploring, along with Ocean Conservancy is leading this, how can the people already out on the water be part of the transport solution for getting debris from a remote community like Teneke, which is by Sitka, but they have very, very irregular service to a larger community, out of their community into a place where it can be disposed of properly. So it's through this group of people we're working on that solution. And I'm extremely biased, but I think people who live and work in these areas have the most innovative solutions. And that by listening to people who live in places like Chivak or Kipnik or in Sitka, you might be able to find opportunities by listening to folks there rather than coming up to solve the problem on top of them.
Okay. Jackie, as you describe it, half the battle is getting the debris out of the water, but then what do you do with it? So what are some solutions? What are some viable places or locations that debris can be disposed of?
So there are a few recyclers out there. So there's a group of folks, the Ocean Plastics Recovery Project in Kodiak is taking plastics and recycling them and sort of discovering what can be done with marine debris plastics. There's a large recycler down in Seattle from Net Your Problems. There's a woman, Nicole, who started a program to help commercial fishermen properly dispose of and recycle their fishing nets. She is very engaged in creating places for marine debris to be recycled, because that's the best, right? To have it be reused rather than end up in a landfill. In my opinion, that's the best. Mm-hmm. And then there are some incredibly creative people up here. There are artists in every community that weave plastics into bags, that take line and make baskets and dog leashes and doormats, or take some of the debris and turn it into art. Last summer, there is an organization in my town called the Sitka Fine Arts Camp, and every summer they put together this giant theater production. And last year it was SpongeBob the musical, and the set designers came out to our project and took a bunch of debris to create the entire set for SpongeBob the musical. So I guess you could make art with it.
Uh-huh. That's really, really fascinating. Where does all this debris come from initially? Do you have any thoughts, or what does the data tell you in terms of what is the source here?
So there are every commercial fishing gear group you can see. There's chunks of line from all the salmon fisheries. There's line from longline fisheries. So if you look at the data and you accumulate the data by weight, the heaviest things that come are line and fishing nets and gear from fishing. So I think that has been part of what has led to some of my personal involvement is seeing how fishermen's gear ends up as marine debris. But what people that aren't fishermen don't often know is gear is expensive and nobody wants to lose it. So it's stuff washes off your deck, or it's generally accidental. No one's that I'm aware of like intentionally loses gear, but it's heavy and it's a problem and it entangles. But what I'm seeing the most of, the absolute most, is plastic drink bottles, and they come from, the entire Pacific Ocean.
Okay. Do you ever go after big items like boats or other big objects out there in the ocean?
We do. So our boat is fairly small. It's only 40 feet overall, and I do this work with my husband and my 2 kids, and also like a little 16-foot skiff. So we're nimble, but we're not, able to do a bunch. But we do. If we can move it, we will move it. And so we cut apart a derelict fishing vessel that was on one of everyone's favorite beaches in town. So we made sure all the metal got off the beach so that people could, not be worried about cutting their foot when running around that beach. There's some larger plastic fishing totes. They look like really, really big coolers. They're like 4 feet by 4 feet, like cubes. And so there's been a few of those, and we were able to pull those off the beach. But we don't have the capability for truly large items, but the biggest individual item we got was about a 4,000-pound trawl, which is a net, a dragger type fishing gear. And that was about 4,000 pounds, and we had to cut it up into chunks to get it out of there. And so there is no trawl fishery in Southeast Alaska, so this net had to travel a considerable distance to end up on our shoreline.
Right, yeah. Now, as I understand it, you recently helped organize another cleanup, which consisted of a large load of plastic bags that fell overboard from a cargo ship. What's the status of that cleanup?
So that is ongoing. Thankfully, there was really early reporting, and we were able to get a lot of it. But the problem with plastic bags is they are able to spread. And we had a pulse of reports and cleanups early on, but it hasn't ended up. We haven't seen as many since then. So I'm hoping that most of them have been picked up. But because of currents and marine debris, what it is, I think we'll find a bag here or there. But it was a pretty phenomenal all hands on deck situation for people who could go out and look and retrieve them to do that. But what that taught me, and I think a lot of people, is there is no rapid response or reporting for marine debris spills like that, So I think it's pretty important to, in my personal advocacy work, when I talk about that, to say that like we can respond a year later or 2 years later or 3 years later, and that's good. But by then, things will have broken down to the point where it's harder to remove these larger items. So that activity invigorated for me my desire to help, not only prevent but respond quickly if there is an issue, like a spill like that. Thankfully, those don't happen too often, but even though it doesn't happen too often, it can have fairly significant impacts.
Jackie, I've read about some of these large ocean garbage patches where the debris is so thick, supposedly a person can just walk across it. Do you ever come across sites like that out in the water, you and your husband?
No, we fish out, but we don't fish as far out as like some of those patches are. I personally have never seen one, but it's just harrowing, isn't it? Just the fact that something like that exists out there, We haven't seen it. and I hope we never do, but I guess that's a long way of answering your question. No, I haven't, but it's really upsetting.
Yeah, it is. We've got a couple of minutes before break. Richard, I'd like to bring you back in. Have you come across any of those really, really large garbage patches or heard stories about just how bad some of this debris can be, the accumulation?
No, not those kind of debris patches. We've seen them in like in news broadcasts. We do know they exist out there, but we haven't seen them. Anyway, a lot of the debris that's eating up our plastic, also plastic products, most and quite a few are the fuel containers, like 30-gallon, 15-gallon, 5-gallon containers. Some of them had fuel in them. We're cleaning those up, storing them. Also, a lot of plastic debris on land on the eastern side of our community, especially where we're raking up a lot of that trash that are on the tundra, and we're having to take some of the vegetation off of those areas where we're raking them and putting them in big plastic bags and cleaning those up. But there's still quite a few of those that we'll need to get to, and a lot of lumber debris that we're getting on our land besides the driftwood.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Richard and Jackie. We have to take another break. We'll come back. We'll continue this conversation. And we have another guest on the show who we're going to bring in, Grant Kaehukai Goin, who joins us from Hawaii, and we'll talk about some of the ocean debris that they're dealing with there. So stay with us, listeners. And for anyone who would like to join the conversation, 1-800-99-NATIVE. We've got the phone lines open.
Support by the Gathering of Nations Powwow. The last dance is this April 24th and 25th at Expo, New Mexico. Gone's last horse rider and regalia parade takes place at 4 p.m. both days. Tickets at gatheringofnations.com and at the gates.
Kaufman & Associates is a Native-owned and led consulting firm, supporting Native communities with culturally grounded solutions to shape Indigenous futures. More at kaufmaninc.com, KAUFFMANINC.com.
We're glad you're with us today on Native America Calling. I'm your host, Sean Spruce. We were talking about cleaning up debris that is swept into maritime environments by natural disasters and improperly managed waste. Have you changed your habits to keep trash out of lakes, rivers, and streams? If so, there's still time to join this conversation. You can call us at 1-800-996-2848. 1-800-996-2848. Our next guest, Grant Kaehukai Goin, joins us now from the Big Island in Hawaii. He is a cultural specialist and lead marine debris tech for the Papahanaumokuakea Marine Debris Project. And Grant, tell us about this area where you go and clean up debris. Is it a populated area?
Hey, aloha. So it is not populated year-round. There is one island where there is presence year-round, but it's only majority scientists and other people coming up to do research. But for the most part, these islands are not inhabited by humans. Papahanaumokuakea is a place that symbolizes our sacred procreative resources. The name Papahanaumokuakea itself honors two of our Akua, or God's elemental deities, Papahanaumoku, our Earth Mother, who gives birth to these islands, and Wakea, Sky Father, connecting us to the heavens. And what these islands are for our people, they're an extension of our genealogy and where we come from, right? They're our ancestral islands. So for us, going up there to protect this place is beyond special and also very disheartening at the same time, because if there should not be this amount of marine debris or trash showing up to these shores, right, with no human presence. But unfortunately, where our Hawaiian archipelago sits, it's a filter that catches a lot of this marine debris and trash from the Pacific garbage patch. And it comes down off of currents from the North Pacific subtropical convergence gyre. And just to give everybody kind of an idea of how much just Papahanaumokuakea spans, it's a little over 1,300 miles. But the entirety of the Hawaiian archipelago, including the island that I'm on, I believe it stretches across the continental United States.
Mm. Yeah, the vastness of these waters, just to try and really comprehend that, it's so significant, Grant. So obviously the cultural significance here is huge. And as you described, even though there's no people there, these islands, this archipelago serves as a filter. It just kind of draws this stuff. What kind of debris do you find?
So we find a lot of derelict fishing gear, mainly purse seine nets or long line fishery type stuff. But at the end of the day, the most detrimental thing is that all of these derelict fishing gear, floats, plastic bottles, one-time use plastics, they're all plastic derived, right? So it's essentially the perfect enemy, right? While it is useful for humans, it never really breaks down or goes away. And for these nets that we deal with, it has one job, right, to catch fish. And, lost or abandoned, they continue to do their job. And eventually they end up on top of a lot of critical habitat. So our reefs, which help to promote fish life and other organisms that keeps our system sustaining itself. So with that being said, a lot of that procreation is being cut off because of these nets and other derelict fishing gear and whatnot.
I read that at one point you folks found a box of Crocs slippers that somehow landed in the ocean. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that trip was it was really funny. So the way that the Crocs are shaped, I forgot which islands exactly, but the left side, because of how it's shaped with the wind and the currents, would go to one island, and then the right side would go to another. So when we were doing land debris ops on the coast, a lot of us were grabbing and matching pairs between the islands to bring back for families and stuff. So yeah, I mean, funny, but at the end of the day, just kind of sad that this has to be picked up and that this kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Grant, tell us about the last debris cleanup mission that you helped to complete, and how do you get out there, and what all goes into this work? What's the process?
The process. A lot of our crew come from different backgrounds, which is great. PMDP Hawaii is a nonprofit, and with that being said, they want to promote more of our community people to do this type of work. So we have 16 crew members from all over the islands that come to Oahu. We do a bunch of on-the-job trainings, and with that being said, PMDP helps our communities to get certified with boat driving, with free diving, so on and so forth. So, one, enhancing our community engagement and helping our people to get certified. The second thing is we do take a chartered ship up to essentially this northwestern region of the Hawaiian Island archipelago. And majority of our ops is done on 4 Zodiacs. So they're 18 feet, 16 feet, I believe. And that's what we use to go out on the water. We crane our Zodiacs down into the ocean. And then between the 4 boats, we have 4-man crews. And whether it's marine ops or land ops, we'll go out, collect whatever we can, bring it back to the ship, crane it into containers, and eventually, once those containers are filled, we'll bring them back to Honolulu, Oahu, and from there, the marine debris gets dispersed to multiple places to get rid of.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there any recycling that occurs, like what we heard Jackie talk about earlier?
Yeah, so there's a few programs that receive the marine debris that we bring back. So there's Nets to Energy, and essentially we take that out to the west side where there's a plant that they can burn the material to give energy to homes. And then there's also another program called Nets to Roads. I believe that one is working with HPU's Hawaii Pacific University, their marine debris program, recycling program. And they're turning all this plastic debris into road patching material for all of the potholes and stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of places that are withering from the weather and strong rains, especially, during this time of the season. And patching those potholes keeps it out of the ocean, but also it helps to make the roadways smoother for travel.
Yeah, that sounds really promising. Grant, are you able to measure the quantity of how much debris you collect every year?
So from the start of PMDP in 2020, our last trip, we hit over 1 million pounds accumulated of marine debris. And we go out about 3 times every year. But we usually go out August through October. That's the calmest seasons to go up there. And yeah, it's hard and humbling work. It makes you really put into perspective your life choices, how much you want to support consumerism, I guess you could say. When you walk into the store, right, there's that disconnect between your food source and how you acquire it, right? You can just go up to any meat department and it comes wrapped in plastic. You buy your vegetables, you put it in a plastic bag. So really puts into perspective on how can we balance sustainability with consumerism, yeah?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm sitting here right now. I have a bottle of water on my studio desk, and I'm feeling pretty guilty about it right now, Grant. I think I need to get a handle on this. Well, I mean, do you feel like you're making a difference? Do you have any data, or even just anecdotally from what you've seen? Are you taking a big bite out of all this debris?
Yeah. So our new mission goals are catch up, keep up. So every year there's about 150,000 pounds estimated that does flow into Papahanaumokuakea. So from the time we started in 2020, we have caught up with that backlog, and now it's time to just keep up, right? We hit over 1 million pounds last season, and we're going to continue to do this work until hopefully one day we don't have to, our boss, they call it the Papahanaumokuakea Marine Debris Project in hopes that one day we don't have to do this work, right? It's a project. So while it does give us a job, we hope that one day we don't have to do this job, essentially.
Grant, how did you get into this type of work?
So it's a long story. I was just blessed with many opportunities and, right place, right time. I was originally a student in Hawaiian Studies at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, Kamakakuokalani. And I was also doing the Marine Option Program. And with that being said, I had an internship under Kalani Kiocho, who was the Native Hawaiian specialist for NOAA at the time. And I did a lot of research looking at the Kumulipo, which is one of our cosmogonical genealogy chants that is how Papahanaumokuakea was named, talking about our kua. And I did a lot of in-reach and outreach information that pertained to a lot of the different species and islands that are up there, because not a lot of our people get to go up there. And that's the hard part, right, is bringing the place to the people and understanding why this is important. And the work that we do ultimately will affect our resources for the many generations to come past us. And with that being said, through Kalani Kiocho, he worked with James and Kevin, and on the very first trip for PMDP in 2020, they asked if Kalani had a Native Hawaiian kind of cultural liaison in mind, and I was brought on through Kalani with Mahie Wilhelm. We were the two young Kanaka Weevi that were on that trip, and it was scary, it was fun, it was inspiring, and just getting to work with people from different backgrounds for the betterment of Hawaii is really how I continue to do this work, and hopefully inspire my future generations when I have a family that, while it doesn't pay the best, this is what's best for our people, for our Lahui, and for, just the planet in general, right? I think that the talks that we're having right now, everybody can understand we all face the same problem, right? Marine debris, plastic production. And that connectivity, I think, for our future generations and how they're going to be the problem solvers is one of the greatest things that I'm trying to work for, right? We understand what the problem is now. We're trying to find ways to get a handle on the situation, but really it's our future generations that are going to continue to take care of these negative impacts, especially on our resources.
Thanks, Grant. We have time to take one call today. This is Jen, who is listening online in East Texas. Hello, Jen. How you doing?
Thank you so much for taking my call. I just want to encourage Richard and Jackie and Grant, and I really appreciated Richard's report. It was very clear, and it really and truly does me good to hear that report, and I've been concerned about his issues there already, and it was a very clear explanation. I appreciate that, and my heart is with Jackie and all her efforts, because I'm one who practices and has practiced recycling for 30 years. Now that people, because when I lived in Austin, it was against the law to give someone a plastic bag, and I carry my own washable bags, and now that I live in East Texas, people look at me like I'm a crazy lady when I say, no, don't give me a bag. And I tell them I'm the bagless lady. You'll come to know me. And I'm just trying to do my part. And I salute all these wonderful people who are trying their best. And having visited Hawaii whale watching, my heart really goes out to all their hard work, and just please keep it up. And don't get discouraged. And I'm doing my part in support of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen, for calling in, joining the conversation. Grant, I'm listening to Jen describe how much she values and appreciates and respects what you and our other guests do here, trying to tackle this immensely huge problem. But I'm also curious, Grant, when you go and you talk to stakeholders, you talk to organizations or government entities that could possibly fund this type of work, how supportive overall are people when you explain this mission, and specifically when you talk about just having to balance consumerism with some of these other issues as well?
Yeah, for the most part, we've had a lot of growing support since 2020. For the higher ups, I don't usually talk to them, but when I have talked to school groups, what I tell the students is, try imagine if you didn't have trash pickup in front of your house, and every day you keep putting a bag of trash in front of your house. Eventually you won't be able to leave your lot. So with that being said, right, understanding how much you support consumerism is kind of key, but also letting these kids know, we can take more of a sustainable stance in the future, right? Growing our own food, going out to get our own protein source, right? I think everybody is on that poke bowl craze right now. And, for us in Hawaii, a lot of us grow up eating poke, but it comes in a plastic container, right? And not saying that you shouldn't go and enjoy one of your favorite meals, but remember that there's a balance, right? You can enjoy your meal, but you don't have to get that all the time wrapped in plastic,
Right. All right, we are out of time, so we're going to have to wrap up this conversation, but really appreciate our three guests who joined us today. Lots of good insights and perspectives. Grant Kaehukai Goin, Richard Tuluk, and also Jacqueline Foss. And please, listeners, don't forget to tune in again tomorrow. We'll have another conversation. This time we'll talk about addiction recovery and what it looks like on the Crow Reservation in Montana. Hope you'll tune in. I'm Sean Spruce. Enjoy your day.
Tribal colleges and universities support their students in countless ways. They say I believe and offer help before it's asked.
Hear that?
Fully, give grace.
That's everything tribal college faculty do for their students on Fast Forward. Because if one tried to say it in real time, they'd be here all day. They teach, guide, comfort, and connect. And for that, the community is grateful. Learn more at mostthoroughdjobdescription.com. The American Indian College Fund supports this program.
They give extensions, share progress, share laughter, create calm, and allow reflection. They inspire hope, share wisdom, guide gently, validate feelings.
Who protects Indian country? Amerind does. As the only 100% tribally owned insurance carrier, Amerind helps strengthen tribal communities by providing reliable insurance coverage and keeping dollars in Indian country. From property and liability to commercial auto and tribal workers' compensation, Amerind is here to protect what matters. Celebrating 40 years of serving Indian country. Learn more at amerind.com. That's AMERIND.com.
Native America Calling is produced in the Annenberg National Native Voice Studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico by Koahnic Broadcast Corporation, a Native nonprofit media organization. Funding is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting with support from the Public Radio Satellite Service. Music is by Brent Michael Davids. Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.